Baldinger, good enough to join us here on Damon and Ratto on the Bud Light guest line. Bud Light, easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Baldy, thank you so very, very much for joining us. One of the things that Ray and I have been kicking around here is that Brock Purdy has enjoyed playing in an environment that is almost devoid of expectations. But those have been placed on him now. And I think, if you're expecting the 49ers to win this game, that means the expectations are a little bit on Brock Purdy. I know that you have been putting him under the microscope, Brian, and thank you so much for joining us as always. Do you have any reason now to doubt that Brock Purdy is less than what we've seen so far? Or do you think that this is a guy who just was totally underestimated and is, now just finding his legs underneath him in the perfect situation?
No, I don't. There's a lot of layers to that, Damon. Good to be with you and Ray. When you win 11 in a row, the expectations are you're going to win 12 in a row. Nobody thinks it's just the quarterback. Nobody thinks it's just the coach or just the talent. I mean, they're playing really good football on all levels, complementary football. The Pro Bowl and the All-Pro teams tell you they have a lot of good talent. I've been saying it all year. At certain positions, they may be the best at probably 5 or 6 positions in the league. Not many teams have that type of talent. But, look, do I think Damon Purdy could just fall off a cliff? I don't think so. But all quarterbacks, when they get hit, they kind of reveal who they are. So he hasn't really been hit much at all. He either avoids pressure, throws the ball out of bounds. He's got an ability to kind of just run away from quick pressure or avoid it. So, he's got escapability. So he's not getting hit a lot. And then he does a lot of good things on the move. So, he's got, just like nobody knew what Patrick Mahomes could do until he got a chance to do it. Could he have done that year before when he was sitting? Probably. We might be looking, I'm not going to compare him to Patrick Mahomes because he's got 5 years of tape that makes him maybe the best player in the league. But, he's got a lot of those type of attributes and qualities where he can just, the touchdown to McCaffrey, the touchdown to Mitchell. Those aren't primary receivers, yet, he just knows where they are and knows how to come back around to the other side of the field and put it in perfect spots to him.
Because the comps that people have attached to him are so gaudy so far, I'm wondering what a sensible comp is in terms of not necessarily numbers here or, rookie records there, which, I'm not fond of, but who stylistically in your mind does Purdy remind you of? Who does he most resemble in like the real football, the creation of football?
Well, look, whether this is fair or not fair, Ray, but, there's only 2 guys that have done what he's done in his first 6 starts, and that's, it's Kurt Warner. And he kind of reminds you of Kurt Warner. Under the radar, nobody knew what he could do. He hadn't been cut and played in different leagues like Kurt. But, when you're Mr. Irrelevant, you might as well have been bagging groceries, like Kurt did in Des Moines. But, he's kind of similar. Like, he sees the field really good. Kurt was a really good athlete at that point in his life, playing for the Rams and took a team to a Super Bowl. And, was he the best player on the team? He was the guy that made it all happen. But obviously they had all kinds of guys and, left tackle and Isaac Bruce and Marshall Faulk. All the guys. But, he kind of made it all go. And I kind of feel like that might be a comparison. Now, is he going to wear a gold jacket one day? I don't know. But, they're off to kind of similar starts with similar ability and similar backgrounds right now.
Brian Baldinger here on 95.7 The Game in the stream. So if you just want to start swearing up and down, you can go ahead and do that, Brian. No one's going to get angry at you today. But look, we know how good Christian McCaffrey is. The guy pops almost every single time he gets the ball. I also think Elijah Mitchell is a hell of a talent who went a long way to getting the 49ers deep into the playoff run last year. In the last game, we saw him haul in that touchdown in the passing game, but he was very much muted at the line of scrimmage when he was carrying the ball. What was the difference in what you saw between Christian McCaffrey running it and Elijah Mitchell running it last week? Because one had great success, the other did not.
Yeah, I can't really say Elijah Mitchell didn't see the holes or didn't see the field well. I mean, the plays just weren't blocked real good, and he didn't make these crazy cuts to find the daylight. So and sometimes you just get in a rhythm. Sometimes it's just a game type thing where it's not really almost how they block it. It's just it's just not going your way that day. There's no back that, I don't care what Barry Sanders. I mean, pick a guy. There's no guy that goes out there and just lights it up every Sunday. Some days you just get shut down. You just don't see it well. You see it in Dallas. You'll see it between Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott at times, where Pollard, makes something happen and Zeke doesn't make anything happen. And sometimes, not often, but sometimes it's vice versa. It can be like that sometimes. And that's why, coaches like to get guys involved early, Damon, to find out who has when they say a hot hand, that's kind of what you're describing. Why one guy's got success and the other guy doesn't. It's not necessarily the other guy has less ability or less vision or anything. He's just not finding it that day. And other guys just find it. And, it's kind of a day-to-day or game-to-game situation sometimes.
Since you brought them up, who is more vital to Dallas's chances of winning Sunday, Pollard or Elliott?
Well, Zeke is maybe the best blocking running back that we have seen in our time. I mean, he is excellent. His personal ability to protect Dak when he's back there is as good as any back in this league. I can't say that about Pollard, but Pollard is a more explosive player, makes bigger plays than Zeke does at this point. Probably a better big play running back than Zeke is, but Zeke's still going to punch it in from the 2-yard line as well as any back in this league. I mean, he can really still push the foul. He still has tremendous power. But Tony's a guy that can find the daylight, and when he gets there, I mean, he can really explode, much like, we've watched from McCaffrey over the last, 8 or 9 weeks.
So who, let me just follow up. Who then in your mind will concern the 49ers in terms of their planning more? Is it Pollard and his explosive abilities, or is it the fact that Elliott is a great pass protector who can make Dak's life in the pocket a little easier? Yeah,
it depends on down and distance situation, to be honest with you, Damon. It's, they rotate accordingly. If it's 3rd and 13, Zeke is probably going to be in there. Just because, he's a very good receiver, but he's a great protector. So in down distance, 1st down and 10, you probably see a lot more Tony Pollard in there, especially if they're trying to get the running game going. And, they didn't have to do much of it last week because, they carved up Tampa's zone defense so easily that they really didn't have to rely much on it. But, when they were winning games with Cooper Rush and even some games with Dak, I mean, they had a really good 1-2 punch going between the two of them.
Brian, what's the difference between good Dak and bad Dak?
The good Dak is what you saw last week, and the difference was just protection. When he's protected and he's got, just a nice wall in front of him, when he can step into his throws, he's very good. Very good. He saw the field really well last week. But under pressure, you can get bad Dak. If he's getting hit, he's getting flushed. If he's late in his progressions and the ball is still in his hands and he's trying to get late in the progressions to a third option, he makes bad decisions. And, that's why he threw interceptions in so many consecutive games and some costly interceptions, pick 6 against Washington. Could have thrown the same, he did the same thing the play before. The guy just dropped the ball. But when he gets late in the progressions and the pocket's getting dirty and it's collapsing, that's when you can get a bad Dak.
Brian Baldinger with us here. Damon and Ratto on the stream, Odyssey. Thank you very much for the technology. Last week, Kyle came out calling the game backwards, if you will. Christian McCaffrey didn't have a touch on the opening drive. It was a pass-heavy opening drive. And, Kyle is feeling it out right there. What do you expect Mike McCarthy to do? The opening drive for the Dallas Cowboys will look like what in your mind?
I think that they're going to take and see a little bit of what we saw from Kenneth Walker last week, where they had some success with their tight ends on the field running the ball. They've got 3 excellent blocking tight ends. When you look at Schultz and you look at Hendershot and you look at the rookie Ferguson, they're excellent run blockers. And at times this year, they were a big 13 personnel team the way Seattle is. I could see them coming out and, really trying to establish the run and just some play action passes off it. I don't think they're going to come out and try to spread the 49ers out and let Nick Bosa, get after him a little bit. I don't expect to see anything like that. I expect them to come out almost conservative and try to get that going and see if they can move the line of scrimmage, see if they can pierce the edges with these backs and their tight ends. And I think that's how they're going to get started here in this game.
Defensively last week, they were in a situation where they didn't need to worry about a running game, and obviously Dallas needs to be very worried about a running game to the point where do you think they will have will the 49ers be looking at a single light box on a single play this weekend?
Probably not, but you'd be foolish to just just load up the box because we've seen what Purdy can do and we've seen what these receivers can do. I think you'll see Micah Parsons all over the place. I think you'll see him blitzing from the middle linebacker position. I think you'll see him coming over the guards, maybe more than over the tackles at times. They're going to try to get him in the best matchups possible. Donovan Wilson is an excellent box player. He's an excellent tackler. He's a lot like Hufanga. He's just a really good football player. And that number 6, Donovan Wilson. Last week they did a good job of really hiding their corners. Deron Bland, who's really a nickel corner, really started on the edge. They eventually went to Xavier Rhodes, but they really had a problem when you spread them out. When teams spread them out, and they get 3 receivers out there in the field, 3 legitimate receivers, the way the 49ers can. They've had a real problem at left corner. And I'm anxious to see, like the Tampa, for whatever reason, never really tried to expose it, but other teams have. I'm anxious to see who they put out there, if it's Bland, the rookie, and then Mukuama in the slot, or if they're going to play Rhodes outside and Bland inside in the slot. I think Kyle wants to find that out. So you're going to see some formations early in this game to see who's playing the left corner, because I think they're going to attack that position.
At the risk of looking further ahead than we're allowed to, in breaking down Giants-Eagles, what do you think is more likely? The game in early December when the Giants got boat raced, or the game 2 weeks ago where the Giants very nearly beat them?
Oh, it's going to be close, Ray. It'll be a close game. Week 14, they didn't have Big Cat Williams. They didn't have Xavier McKinney. They didn't have Adoree Jackson. I mean, they got their chess pieces back now. And they have a much better passing game offensively, much better. And so they're in a position, Wink Martindale, a defense coordinator, they're in a real good position to get this thing into the fourth quarter against the Eagles. And I think that's where it's going to be, won and lost right now. I think it's going to be a close game into the fourth quarter.
Brian, what do you think about the Jaguars? A puncher's chance at Arrowhead?
Yeah, puncher's chance. I mean, because, if you're down 27-0 and you come back and you win and you throw, 4 touchdown passes in a row, you feel like you're kind of invincible. They've been to Kansas City. They know the atmosphere. They know the field. They know the talent. They know what Chris Jones can do. I mean, they've seen it and felt it. They took their best punch back in Week 10. They're very capable of, because offensively they really know who they are. Christian Kirk is a slot, and Zay's outside, and Marvin Jones beats man coverage, and Evan Ingram is the flex tight. I mean, they know who they are, and the quarterback is very good.
Let me ask you a question, not as a football analyst, but as a fan. How much dread, if any, do you feel in the possibility of an AFC title game played in Atlanta on a neutral ground?
Look, it might happen, and if it does, then they got to play it. But I'm not a fan of it. I understand the circumstances, and I understand that they've got to try to make it as fair as possible. But I don't think it's going to be fair, and I don't think it's going to be fun. I mean, there's nothing better if you're Cincinnati and what they did last year, going in to Kansas City and beating Kansas City. That's a great feeling, being able to do that and to overcome the atmosphere. Joe Burrow said he likes being the underdog. He likes going in and, all right, we got to communicate a little bit differently, a little bit better than we normally do. But he likes that feeling. And you're not going to get that feeling. You're just not going to get that atmosphere in that stadium. I don't believe you will. I don't believe you'll get a 50-50 partisan. I think you'll get a lot of nonpartisan fans in the stadium because it's a game in Atlanta. So, I mean, I think it's going to lose a lot if it does get played there.
Our friend,
go ahead. I'll be real quick. And as a fan, how bad do you want the weather to be Sunday in Buffalo?
Oh man, come on! I'm here at NFL Films right now. You know, we love when it's snowing, when it's bad weather, when it's windy. I mean, it just makes for better pictures, better atmosphere, more to overcome. Kind of makes you feel like you're looking at an older style of game when you get that kind of weather component to it, Ray.
Are you in a press box this weekend?
I'll be on the field tomorrow night in Philadelphia, get some stuff done. So I'll get that South Philly vibe, Damon, when I'm there tomorrow.
That's a red carpet rollout for Brian Baldinger in Philadelphia, I am sure. Baldy, go ahead and predict the NFC title game. What game are we talking about next week in the NFC?
Oh, I think, the Niners will be in Philadelphia next Friday or Saturday getting ready for a Sunday tilt with the Eagles.
Always great to talk to you, brother. Thank you so very, very much. Yep. Appreciate it all season and doubly appreciate it in the postseason. Thank you.
You bet, guys. I'll talk to you next week.